Welcome back to Foundation Physical Therapy's YouTube channel. Today we're going to do a video on our series on regional interdependence. If you missed that video, go back and check it out. It's a quick video on what regional interdependence actually means. And we're going to be talking about the shoulder. I'm going to start at the foot. Real briefly, we talked about regional interdependence being interlocking segments of the body or stacked segments of the body of one being stability followed by mobility and so on and so forth. So I'm going to go through real quick just a rundown on how we get to the shoulder. Okay, so we previously said the foot was built to be stable, the ankle mobile, the knee stable, the hip mobile, the low back is supposed to be stable, the upper back should be mobile, which would make it so that the shoulder blade needs to be stable and the actual glenohumeral joint, the ball and socket joint of the shoulder, needs to be very mobile. And what we're talking about today is shoulder pathology or shoulder pain. And a lot of times, the first thing that gets thrown at anybody with shoulder pain or shoulder pathology is you got to strengthen the rotator cuff. And having a strong rotator cuff is important. I don't feel like that's the primary cause of most people's pain. But if you're at this video, you probably already Googled some of it, and everybody shoots at rotator cuff, rotator cuff. Again, the rotator cuff does need to be strong. Every muscle that helps to get this shoulder blade functional or the shoulder functional needs to be at a certain level of strength. The problem is most people ignore what's going on at the shoulder blade. So the shoulder blade needs to be a very stable joint for your rotator cuff to be able to do what it does, okay? And when we say stable is, yes, it does move, but once it gets to a certain position, it needs to be able to hold there to allow this shoulder to move the way it should. One of the little phrases that gets thrown out a lot in the PT world is proximal stability provides distal mobility. So you need to be stable up here so you can be mobile here is basically what that means. And a lot of times, even when there is rotator cuff pathology, whether it be a small rotator cuff tear or a strain or just rotator cuff pain, for this rotator cuff to heal, you first need to come and address this shoulder blade. So a lot of times shoulder blades can fall down and kind of sloop down. We've all seen people that have very slumped shoulders, or even if you go and look in a mirror and really kind of appraise the position of your shoulders, you'll find that there's going to be one that's lower than the other. It's usually your dominant hand. That being said, if this shoulder blade is drooping down and falling down, there's a little bone up here. This is the hard part on top of your shoulder. It's kind of the area that football players will hit somebody with, or they should hit somebody with. This top part of the shoulder is called the acromion. And it's to protect the rotator cuff from something coming down and falling on top of it. It can also act on the rotator cuff. If it falls down and starts to tip in this direction, now you've just shrunk this space where the rotator cuff operates, and then it rubs in there, rubs in there. Eventually you get a degenerative tear in the rotator cuff. So what you need to do to really have a good functioning shoulder is make sure that your shoulder blade, one, is not being bound down by a lack of flexibility in the pec major or the pec minor or the latissimus dorsi. Any of those muscles that can act to pull this shoulder blade down, you need to first make sure you have the flexibility there. We have plenty of YouTube videos that'll show you how to achieve that. The other thing you have to do is to make sure that this shoulder blade is staying in a stable position. Now we're also going to show you some quick screens to do at home that'll basically let you know, do I pass this test? Is my shoulder stable enough? If you fail those, then you go into our series on shoulder stability or trapezius strengthening. There's a lot out there already. If you pass those, then maybe you do just need to move on from here and look at this rotator cuff. Is the rotator cuff failing? Is it not guiding this ball and socket joint? But that's just a quick video on how the regional interdependence model works and how we get to making sure that your scapula is stable, that your shoulder blade is stable, so that you can actually have a good functioning shoulder. Again, it's important to have a good rotator cuff, and we'll talk about strengthening that in the future. But the first thing you have to understand is the concept that without a stable shoulder blade, you will not have a mobile shoulder. And just to kind of go into what some of our next segments will be about, for you to have a stable shoulder blade, you also have to have a mobile upper back. But that's a whole nother can of worms that we'll get into here soon, and then you can click on the link to go to this video, or just start to really dig into this and see what you think. So if this information is useful to you, remember to like our channel and subscribe. Remember, movement is a gift, so we hope that this helps you express that gift.